Hey guys, welcome. I am so excited that you have decided to join me for this short presentation on the three keys of becoming anxiety free. And I truly hope that you each have a breakthrough today and hopefully can move on to becoming anxiety free as I have. So, my name is Nicole Logan, and at first, I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about who I am and my background and things like that. And maybe I'll get this my computer working right. Sorry. So what I want to talk to you first about was I was an anxiety sufferer just like you. Um, Ever since I was a little kid, I was stressed about everything. I suffered from anxiety pretty much my whole life. Um, when I was really young, I used to worry a lot and overthink everything. I was stuck to my mom's side. If she was not around me, I was crying and upset, all of that. So my parents would always say, she's just shy. And some of you that are my age or around my age probably have heard the same thing. And I'm not sure that we necessarily had a word for that back then. But when I look back, I definitely had anxiety. It was definitely an issue. So once I became around, I think probably 8 or 9, I started worrying a lot about death, which is very common with people with anxiety. So death was kind of my new thing. I worried all the time, like, what if my parents died? What's going to happen to me? Um, who's going to take care of me? All of that kind of thing. And I think that's probably a little young to start worrying about it, but I do think that that's, like I said before, very common to start worrying about that. Then when I got into about middle school, high school, it started to decrease just a little bit. And I think my anxiety was more centered around social activities than it had been before. But it did decrease a little bit. Then I went off to college and I ended up quitting college and getting married to my high school sweetheart and having children. And once that happened, the anxiety ramped up again. And all of a sudden, I was worried about what if my husband gets in a car accident? What if I have to raise these kids alone? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? A lot of worry about my kids. What if someone kidnaps them? What if they get molested? A lot of overthinking, a lot of what ifs, a lot of spiraling out of control just from one thought. And I'm sure if you were here watching this video, that you totally understand where I'm coming from. Hopefully, your anxiety wasn't that bad, but it might have been. And I'm here to tell you that it can get better. So, throughout this time, I also was going to school to get a psychology degree and to then, after that, get a school counseling degree and then to be a therapist. So, I did have some tools at my disposal to help me with my anxiety. They didn't really work, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. But right now, what I want to tell you is that now I have consider myself virtually anxiety free. And so I want you to know that you can be that way too. You just heard how horrible I was all throughout my youth and in my 20s and early 30s, really. So it can happen for you. You can get rid of this. It is possible. So now let me just say that when I say I'm virtually anxiety free, if I have big things that come up, like recently I moved to New York City, that's kind of a big thing. That's a big move. There was a little bit of anxiety that popped up, but the thing is I know how to overcome it. I know what tools work for me. I know what to do. And even now, when I think back on that move, I can't believe that I wasn't as anxious as, I thought that I would be more anxious, I guess, because it was a big move. I mean, driving a U-Haul all by myself from South Carolina all the way up to New York is kind of, and driving in the city, but I did it. I did it, and I really wasn't that anxious, so it was really cool. So let me go back to being a therapist just to talk a little bit about my background. So one of my therapists or one of my professors told me when I was going to school to be a therapist, if you don't pick an expertise, the expertise will pick you. And I'm here to tell you, anxiety picked me. So I was a school counselor, like I told you before, and I would see so much anxiety in the schools. And then when I became a therapist, predominantly most of my clients either had anxiety or depression, but most anxiety. So it was kind of funny because I had been through anxiety and I really get it and I really know. I think that really kind of helped me connect with my clients better, because it's one thing to, we learn all the techniques to be a therapist, don't get me wrong. But it's one thing to talk to a client from that perspective in that way of helping, but it's a totally different experience when your therapist totally understands what you're going through and why you're feeling the way you are and why you think you can't change it. Does that make sense? So I think all of that kind of helped me, but it's interesting to me that that kind of presented itself as that was kind of my expertise after a while, because I spent so many years doing just that. So now, since I've moved to New York, I have become a coach, an empowerment coach. And so I work with people like you who want to get rid of their anxiety and really just want to live the best life that they can. I mean, with all the worries, all the overthinkings, all the fears, it's hard to kind of take those steps to just do the things that you've always wanted to do, whether it's move to New York City or write a best-selling novel or start a new job or meet Mr. Right or meet Miss Right, whatever it is, right? The anxiety kind of gets in your way. So I like to help people get through, past those barriers, get through all of that and start living their best life and figuring out what that best life is, because sometimes we don't really know what we want anymore. We've spent so much time doing what we should do, right? That we kind of forget what's important to us. So let's get right into the first key, and that is to decide that you are ready to change. Okay? So if you've ever had a bad habit like smoking or maybe overeating, I don't know, being disorganized, anything like that, you know that people can't change until they're ready to change. I mean, my ex-husband smoked, and I remember bugging him and bugging him and bugging him, and I finally realized he's not going to do it until he is totally ready to do it, because he would say he wanted to change too, and he didn't want to smoke anymore, but then he didn't do it for a long time. And it's really that there are stages to change, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that and about how you can move through those stages. So if you are in kind of one of those early stages, how you can kind of get through that. So with the stages of change, the first stage is that you know that you should change. But you feel like you don't really have the energy or the motivation, and you've tried so many times in the past and it hasn't worked, so you're kind of full of like disappointment, so you just don't really see how that would work. And then the second stage is when you're really thinking of changing, but you aren't really sure what to do because in the past it hasn't worked, right? So you're thinking about it, you think you know you need to do this, you're more ready than you were before, but you're not really sure what to do. The third stage is when you start to develop a plan to change. Your confidence is growing higher because you feel like, okay, I think I can do this time. I mean, I'm prepared. I think I'm ready. And then the fourth change is action. That's where I want you guys to be, is ready to change. Like I'm doing this. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about how do you get to that action stage. Okay. So for me, it was kind of like almost hit rock bottom in a way, and not really in a really negative way, but it was kind of, I got to the point where I thought, I don't want to live like this anymore. Like, this anxiety is keeping me from doing so many things that I want to do, and I just can't do it anymore. I want to live an amazing life, especially with watching social media. You see people doing all these things, taking these trips and doing things that I've always wanted to do. And I just didn't want to be stuck like that anymore. So I guess I kind of hit rock bottom is what happened. The other thing I want to point out is something that people say all the time is, well, I'm not motivated to change. And that's kind of a misconception. So motivation actually occurs when you take action steps towards your goal. So for instance, if you know you should clean the house, you want to clean the house, but you're tired, you had a long day at work, you don't, that's not like the first thing that calls to you when you get home. So if you just said, okay, I am going to clean the kitchen for 15 minutes and just do that. Have you ever done that and then started cleaning and then you go on this cleaning spree and everything's cleaned up in no time at all? That's what I'm talking about. So once you start, the motivation just kind of keeps ramping up, and then you're done. You've got it all figured out. And this little picture of, but change is so scary. It can be, but it's also good for us. If we're growing, we're changing. So what can you guys do to get ready to change? One of the big things you can do is make a list of pros and cons of getting rid of anxiety. And I want you to do this on paper. Now, the reason I say that is one of the things with anxiety is we have all of these things going on in our mind. And we may be thinking, well, I'm just going to think logically about the pros and cons. But we have to get this stuff in our head out of our head, because that's what we're doing. When we've got anxiety, it's spinning. We're thinking constantly. And everybody's thinking constantly, but people with anxiety are thinking a lot more negative thoughts than other people. So making a list of the pros and cons, you really can see all of a sudden there's this list of 10 pros and maybe one con, and you're thinking, boy, I think I really need to do this. So writing it down on paper is huge. The other thing that you can do is visualize what your life would look like if you had changed. So how will you act? How will you feel? What will be different in your life? Will you be traveling the world? Will you go to Paris? Will you live in California? Like, what would you do if you didn't have any anxiety? If you had no fears and nothing to hold you back, what would your life look like? The other thing you can do is read stories about people who have defeated anxiety. And you guys, there are YouTube videos, there are blogs, there are magazine articles, books. You can find this anywhere because anxiety is so prevalent these days. So I think sometimes just looking at stories of people who've done it and they've made it, and you're like, oh, if they can do this, I can do this too, right? It just helps. So another thing that can help is thinking through any challenges that you may face when you're doing this. So if you think, okay, I'm trying to think of an example here. Oh, so maybe let's say some social issues are kind of part of your anxiety. And what if you start thinking, well, if I face my fears and I go to this party or I go to a friend's house, then this might happen. I might have a panic attack. Okay, how are you going to handle that? And let me put in an aside here, just from my example for a panic attack. That's another thing that you can go on YouTube, and there are so many ways that can help you get through your panic. You can learn about your panic. YouTube's like the greatest thing ever, I think. But you can learn about your panic. You can learn how to deal with your panic. And I'm also going to talk about another way kind of at the end of this video. Then decide on a date to change. Decide on a date that you are going to start your new life, because really, like, you've got this. You can do this. I promise. And again, like I said, for me, it was just like I was done. And let me tell you guys about one of my clients. She was in middle school, and I had worked with her probably for about 2 years. And she came into my office, and she was always anxious, always, her face, you could just read it all over her face. But she came into my office one Saturday, and she's smiling and happy. And I said, what happened to you? Like, what's going on? And she said, well, I've just decided that I don't have time for anxiety anymore. And she had this big grin on her face. And I just looked at her and I said, that's right. That's what I've been waiting for you to say. Because once you get to that point, that's when you start using the techniques. That's when you can change. So this is a really important part. So next, guys, is that your second key, which is realizing that you have the power. And what I mean by that is, most people think that they cannot really change their anxiety or get rid of their anxiety. They don't think they have control over this. It just comes about and they don't know why. They don't know where it stems from, that kind of thing. Okay. And I know, like earlier when I said the first key, if I would have ever heard anyone say, decide you're ready to change, I would have been mad. I would have been like, are you kidding me? I'm not choosing this. Do you think I want to be anxious? Do you think I'm not trying to get rid of this? But it came to a point where I finally realized I have the power to change this. And I'm going to tell you something kind of crazy that I couldn't believe when I first heard it, but you can control your anxiety by choosing your thoughts. Thoughts become feelings. Now, I learned this, I think, under when I was getting my bachelor's degree, and I was floored. I always thought feelings were just there. They just came about. I did not know that they were attached to thoughts. And let me give you a little example. So if I was going to walk in the park and I saw a snake, and it was maybe red and black and I kind of small, and I might think, oh, wow, that's a really pretty snake. I've never seen anything with red on it. I've never seen a snake like that. I wonder what kind it is. It looks like a baby. Now, you would probably guess that I'd be feeling curious and kind of excited, like I want to kind of check the snake out and see what's going on, right? But if I was walking through the park and I saw this snake and I looked at it and thought, wow, that snake's colorful. I wonder what that means. Do you think it's poisonous? I wonder how fast it can go. It's pretty small. Do you think it could go up my pant leg? I mean, you see where I'm going here. I would be running the other way, right? I would be anxious. I would be worried. I would be freaked out by that snake. But it's all on how I was thinking about the snake. If I thought about the snake like, ooh, I wonder what this is, okay, I'm having wonderment, curiosity. But if I'm worried that the snake is going to bite me and I'm going to die, here we go with the death, then I'm going to be anxious, right? So it's all about your thoughts. So changing your thoughts will change your feelings. And it's crazy because, like I said, I remember thinking, like, there's no way. I don't understand how this would even work. And to be honest, I mean, I really had to get to the point where I realized I had the power and I could do this. And I'll talk to you about how you can do that in a minute. But what I want you to know is you've had the power and you've had it all along. And it's not something that someone can really tell you. It's something that you have to figure out that you have the power. Okay, boy, do you feel like Dorothy from Wizard of Oz yet? Yeah, I can't tell you, you had to learn it on your own, right? So I want to just talk to you a little bit about what you can do to kind of realize that you have power, to kind of see that you've got control over this, okay? Yep, there's Glinda the Good Witch. You had power all along. So the first thing I want you to do is really think about the times in your life that you have overcome obstacles. What did you do? How did you make it through the situation? So earlier I was talking to you about how I was really anxious when I was in elementary school, around that age, ever since I was little. And then when I got into middle school, high school, it kind of decreased a little bit. And the reason for that was I had a really tough time in 5th grade with friends. You know, it's always about friends when you're in school. And they were really mean to me, and it was just, you know, the typical bullying kind of thing. And what happened was I finally decided towards the end of the school year, because I had been going on this whole school year pretty much alone. I had some people that were nice to me, but my friends were really just, you know, ignoring me and kind of teasing me and things like that. But I finally realized that I could be my own best friend. And I know that sounds really hokey. And I will tell it to my clients sometimes, and I think they're like, yeah, whatever. But really, it works because I realized I could be my own best friend. And all of a sudden, I didn't care what everyone else was doing. I didn't care if anybody invited me to a party or whatever. I didn't care about any of those people. I cared about me. I became more confident. I focused on the things that I loved, like my family. I focused on the things I liked to do, and I spent time doing those things. And then what happened was when I got into middle school, the time where you guys all know it is like crazy drama. It's just middle school is drama, right? I was never in any of the drama. People just knew that I wasn't going to put up with it, that I was like okay being alone. And what was funny was everyone was drawn to me because of that. Everyone was drawn to me. So I had lots of friends that was not in the drama. Middle school is probably my favorite part of school from kindergarten to high school because, I mean, I wasn't going to have it. And so my point to this story is thinking about times when you've overcome obstacles. That was a really tough time for me. I was really sad a lot of the time in 5th grade. So, but I got over it and I figured out how to get around it. And I know you guys have stories like that too, where you've been through tough times and you figured out ways to cope. So think through those and think about, what did you do? How did you get through it? And remember that you have strength and you are magical. I know that sounds corny too, but we have so much power. We really do. And we let fear get in the way of so much. Okay, next thing you can do. Try catching your negative thoughts. And if you start feeling anxious, then just ask yourself, like, what am I thinking? Then kind of choose a different positive thought to think about. Now, what I mean by that, this is hard, okay? This is hard. But the reason why I want you to start doing this is because you're going to start to notice that, okay, she's right. I am thinking these negative thoughts. That is what's going on, and I can change them. Okay. But in this next key, in the third key, I'm going to talk about something you can do that actually might help with this too. But I really want you to try doing this because I think you are really going to see, okay, I do have a lot of negative thoughts. There is something I'm thinking behind this sadness or anxiety. I mean, not sadness. Well, you might be sad too, but there is something behind this. I get anxious and I really am worrying about what if my boss is mad at me. There's always something behind it. So I just want you guys to take time to think about that. Okay, third key, commit to change. Now this is huge. Oh, okay, I told you guys before that I went to school for psychology and counseling and then therapy, right? So I had all these techniques and I had tried to get rid of my anxiety for years. And I would try a technique for such a long period of time. I mean, like a whole week, and it wouldn't go away. It wouldn't go away. And I thought, what is going on? This doesn't work. I give up, right? I want you guys to think about how long you've had anxiety and remember that this is not going to happen overnight. Okay. I would seriously try for a week and that was it. And then I would get mad because it didn't change. Nothing happened. I thought this stuff doesn't work, right? But it does. You have to work at it consistently. When I was talking to you before about changing your thoughts, it is going to be hard at first. And then as you go on, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And one day you're just going to be like, wait a minute, I'm not anxious anymore. Okay. That's how it works. Now, having said that, let me say that a lot of times you need more than just one technique to try because there are a lot of times, there's just a lot of different types of anxiety that pop up and you might need different techniques for different things. So what I did is I did everything and I just tried it all and it worked for me. So consistency is key. I'm looking down at my notes to make sure I didn't forget to tell you anything. But so the next thing is that what I want to talk to you about is this guided meditation. So what happened to me, I want to tell you a little story. When I started with the anxiety, okay, so I told you before that I tried different techniques for like a week. So I tried this guided meditation. And really what that is, why I put guided meditation is because you can look on YouTube, search guided meditation, and it comes up with all these different things like for overthinking, anxiety, panic, anything. Like I said, YouTube's great. So just if you listen to that every single night, pick one that you like, make sure it relaxes your body from head to toe. Make sure it says what you need it to say, things like, I am calm, I am safe, that kind of thing. And listen to it every single night. Okay, if you can't listen to it every night because you're married and your husband thinks you're crazy, that's fine. I want you to listen to it every single day for at least 10 minutes. If you can do more, like 30, that's probably better, but at least 10 minutes. So what happened to me was I was doing these relaxations every single night. And that was the easiest technique to start with. So that's what I started with. And I remember probably about 4 weeks after I started that I was at work and something happened. And it was something that normally would have put me into like total panic mode. And I just was calm. My whole body was calm. And I was like looking at my coworkers like they probably thought I was crazy, but I thought, what is going on? Like my body is calm. I can problem solve. I'm not hyperventilating. Like what is happening? And I thought, there's nothing that I'm doing. And then I remembered the guided meditation. That was the only thing I was doing at that time. That was the first thing that I did. So when I noticed that change took place, that's when I really thought, okay, I can do this. Like I can really do this. This is something I can do. So that's what, when I was talking to you earlier about changing your thoughts, try a technique like something easy. If you want to try to change your thoughts, that's going to be the quickest way to change. But the guided meditation, I think, is the easiest. So a lot of times I'll start with that with my clients because it's just like you're going to see a result and it's going to be easy. Okay. So that's something you can start right now. And I think you guys are going to have great results from that. Okay, so my last thing is I really just hope that you learned a lot from this. Really, these 3 things are the first things that you need to do to get rid of your anxiety. But I wanted to take a minute to tell you about my online course. It's a 6-week online course if you guys are interested. And what it consists of are all of the techniques that I use to get rid of my anxiety, and I use them with my clients. And so how it works is you sign up, and every week you get a new module. And usually I will just put in a couple techniques in each module because I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to kind of implement each of those each week and then just build every week. So you'll do that. And by the end, you will have all of the techniques that I used for me to get rid of anxiety. And I promise you, if you implement them, they will work. They work for me, they work for my clients. The other thing I want to say, though, about that is really to do this course is that you need to be, like I said already, you need to decide that you're ready to go, that you're ready to change. You need to realize you have the power, and you need to commit. That's what's going to work. The other piece of this is, for me, I didn't go to therapy. I've been to therapy before, but I didn't go to therapy for my anxiety. And I think that was because I really had a lot of support from my friends. And keep in mind, I had a lot of counselor friends, but I had a lot of support. People listened to me, talked to me, worked out things together. I had a lot of friends. So because of that, really all I needed were the techniques. I just needed everything instituted, implemented. That's what I needed to do. So if you are similar to me and really you have a good support system and you just want to do a course like this, it's great. It's $99, which is like the price of one therapy session, cheap therapy session. So really for one therapy session, you get everything. You can click the link on this last slide if you want to sign up. What you would do is put in your email and name, and within 24 hours, you will get the first module. Other than that, if you guys are interested at all in working with me for coaching, and I can help you get through give you some support, say maybe you have some support, but not really enough, I could work with you with coaching, and that would be great too. And I'll give you more information on that as well in this email. But the other thing is, if you really struggle with anxiety, I used to be a therapist, and I really advocate for therapy. And sometimes we just really need an unbiased, non-judgmental person to tell all of our stuff to, And a lot of times we can really find out through therapy, like, where this all comes from. Now, some of us know where this comes from, but others of us don't. So that might help, bring about change. So I hope this helped you guys. And really, the whole point of this is that I became anxiety free, and I really want everybody else to, because it has changed my life. I have so much fun and go on so many adventures. Last year, I went to Paris all by myself. Never thought I would ever do that before. And it was wonderful. It was such an amazing experience. So I hope you guys found this valuable. And if you need anything, email me, message me. I've got a Facebook group that you can follow as well. You guys have a great day.